It's the 10th of the 3rd, 2025. The time is 19 minutes past 10. There are 3 topics on the docket this morning as far as all things F1 news. Dave Richard, Legends of F1. FIA steward et al. has typed out an email, a strongly worded one to the FIA, condemning Mohammed Ben Sulayem's behaviour as far as his keeping him out of these all-important meetings. What are we doing here? So too legal action on the part of High Tech on the back of their being denied entry as the 11th team. So too we've got to talk about TGW Motorsports, aka Cadillac F1, because there are concerning things as far as their legal entity and what that means. Cadillac F1, no, call them nominally TGW Motorsports. What are we doing here? Go on and let's talk about Richards first. On this, that by the way is the first race week of the year. Oh, the humanity. Let me tell you about Australian Grand Prix first and foremost. 2 topics on the docket. They've done all they can to improve, haven't they? Around the Albert Park. Again, it's going to be techie for them. Here's what I know. The Albert Park have done their best to improve infrastructure, improving the number of toilets et al., improving bar and infrastructure. And that's what we're here for if indeed we're to promote the sport that is F1. Nobody wants to pay a gazillion $1 million and turn up to a Grand Prix and not be able to get a beer. For Pete's sake, what are we doing? Oh, and by the way, the probability that we get rain at this weekend's Australian Grand Prix is doing one of these. Therefore, it will be techie than techie things. Are there only Reagan Meisters on the grid? I can remember 2. One named Sir Lewis Hamilton and one Maximilian Verstappen. Those 2, if indeed it is as rainy as the weather forecast says it might be, expect those 2 to go well. Therefore, notwithstanding not insubstantial vehicular deficits as far as space. Here's what Richards has said about the FIA. Kayla, Outlaw, Jomo. This is chaos, I'm telling you. In this strongly worded letter, again courtesy of Joe Saywood and his legendary weekly newsletter, Dave Richards has said as follows: "No one, least of all myself, will dispute the fact that certain matters as far as FIA must be treated as confidential and sensitive for external release. However, we should not allow that basic truth to be misused in order to create a blanket gagging order on the volunteer representatives on the various crucial councils and committee." Let's go, Dave Richards. This is the type of pushback, constructive challenge that we need for Mohammed Ben Sulayem. This, continues Dave Richards, is not how a member-owned and driven organisation should behave. For some time now, I've had concerns about the erosion of accountability and good governance within the FIA. Let's go. Let's go. We were pitched that we would have a hands-off president, one who was prepared to sacrifice everything at the altar of accountability and so true transparency. Whatever has happened to that, says Dave Richards. He said that he would institute for a non-executive and delegate the day-to-day running of the FIA to a professional executive team with the appointment of an empowered and capable CEO to run the FIA to professional standards, full transparency of actions and the highest standards of sporting governance. That's what we were pitched on when Mohammed Ben Sulayem came to power, in inverted commas, in 2022. Whatever happened to that? Since then, it's been nonsense after nonsense, PR disaster after PR disaster. It's been conflict of interest, Susie Wolf. It's been sacking 2 of the 4 audit committee members. It's been totalitarianism, authoritarianism, nothing if not the 2 aforementioned. And that's a problem if indeed you are the FIA and as your remit, you are to institute for the rules in a way that's consistent across all related parties. Whatever happened to that? Checo Perez and Lando Norris, full start. You can't tell because the transponders aren't working. What are we doing there? Consistently inconsistent. That's been their central tenet. Not the transparency, not the accountability. None of those are anywhere to be seen. Dave Richard continues, and again, should have set the scene proper. Dave Richard and Robin Reed were banned from entering a World Motorsport Council meeting last week because they didn't want to sign a gagging order, an impromptu NDA, when all the while in their contracts, this is written in there. What are you talking about, MBS? What happened to transparency and then you want to gag order these bots, and then your meeting of the World Motorsport Council is not quorate, and you want to pass new legislature. Yeah, behave yourself. Dave Richard continues, I am afraid that over the last 3 years there's been a distinct failure to meet these promises. Let's go. In fact, the situation has progressively worsened, with media reports confirming the numerous senior members of the FIA and volunteer officials that have either been fired or resigned under an opaque cloud. He continues, and I quote, furthermore, the scope of the Audit and Ethics Committee has been severely limited and now lacks autonomy from the authority of the President. I mean, what are we doing here? The Audit Committee is set to check, tick and cross Mohammed Ben Sulayem's homework to ensure, I don't know, as an example, that he can't be jet setting around the world on a PJ and tacking that T&E, those travel and expenses, charging them back to the FIA under the umbrella heading of sustainability, of course. There's once upon a time a man called Hippocrates. Dave Richard continues, various techniques have also been deployed with effect of limiting proper function of the World Motorsport Council, primarily the use of e-voting, which removes the opportunity for the much needed discussion and debate on key subjects. Let's go. We are no longer making decisions at the FIA by committee or consensus. This is Mohammed Ben Sulayem PLC. My request, continues Dave Richard, along with those of a few other members who shared our views, was denied, and we were barred from attending the meeting. Safak, you're a legend. Can't wait for the first race. Even being a Max Verstappen fan, I say, may the best driver win. Oh, and smash the like. Honestly, Safak, you're far too kind, and it's going to be techie. We'll touch on Australian Grand Prix shortly, I promise, but I need to get through this Dave Richards letter. Safak, really important. Dave Richard continues, and I quote, this was in total breach, not allowing me or Robin was in total breach of the FIA statutes that require all elected members to be given full access to meetings. I should point out that I kept the board of Motorsport UK fully informed throughout to ensure that I had their complete and utter support. Our Motorsport UK lawyers, I might add, along with our French legal counsel, have challenged the FIA on their actions by setting out a clear set of questions that the FIA leadership needs answers to. It is very disappointing, however, to report that we still have not received responses to these questions, the answers to these fundamentals that I have raised. Where in the FIA statutes does it provide for an elected member to be barred from a meeting? It does not, Dave Richards, and therein lies our issue. We've informed the FIA that unless they address the issues we've raised, that we will be engaging in further legal actions. Let us go. Now, will this go anywhere? Is this ultimately being done with a view to depose one Mohammed Ben Sulayem as the FIA president? Absolutely. Will it go anywhere ultimately? Probably not. I mean, this whole system, this infrastructure is nothing if not archaic. More than likely, Mohammed Ben Sulayem in December of this year will run opposed to extend his tenure as the FIA president. But against the backdrop of all of these shenanigans, corruption allegedly, hypocrisy, failing to take the counsel of the members that he's appointed, of the team that he's constructed around him. I mean, it's nonsense, isn't it? Oh, and by the way, you think that's bad? Let me tell you about this. You'll know that Cadillac F1 are the 11th entrant now. We've talked already about proper conflict of interest, allegedly. But let's leave that for another day, eh? DOJ, why did they rush that so quickly through, eh? Thought the DOJ were meant to be apolitical, but I digress. Let's talk about high tech, because you know that high tech launched something in the background. High tech, they had their project disregarded, rejected even by the FIA on the grounds that they didn't have the financial resources requisite to put together a proper F1 team, a going concern for the long term. They said, high tech were like, what are you talking about? Financial resources. You know what, chaps? We will see you in court. And the court found apparently and allegedly in favour of the high-tech bods. They were ready financially, but F1 is always has been political, has it not? But then we see that there is an extra layer to this, that apparently there was a next level of arbitration, if word on the F1 curb is to be believed. And not only did high-tech win the first step, They won the second one as well. Ergo, there will be a settlement. Not only will the FIA have to pay some of the legal fees of Hitech, but they'll have to pay damages too, allegedly. If word on the F1 curb is to be believed, then you will see in the financial statements for 2025 a settlement fee to Hitech to a number. Now, the integer is up for debate. We don't know how much it is, not in absolute terms, but there will be a fee. You'll recall there was a fee that Ferrari settled for. Do you remember on the fuel flow gate? There was a number in the FIA statements, allegedly, apparently, if word on the F1 curb is something in which you want to believe. There was a settlement in the financial statements of the FIA that year that they received money coming in. That, if word on the F1 curb is to be believed, was from Ferrari because of the fuel flow gate. Everything happens in the background there. Cloak and dagger settings. Go on then, let's talk about Cadillac F1. Forecast shows rain. Oh, in March it's going to get chaotic. Go on, let me tell you about this TWG motorsport thing. It's Cadillac F1, right? Formerly it was Andretti Motorsport. Andretti went in there and fudged it up royally, forcing, encouraging, imploring and coercing the 10 drivers or the 10 team principals currently on the grid to sign a piece of paper, a letter of endorsement and support. They weren't having that. Michael Andretti had to go. Therefore, now the 11th team officially endorsed by the FIA and the teams will be Cadillac F1. But surely that means that Cadillac, owned by GM, would have to own some of TWG Motorsports now. They will need to file accounts. If indeed GM held one share in TWG Motorsports, then we would know this by dint of the security exchange. No, they have to file these. Why then, chat? Answer me this question. Why did GM, owner of Cadillac F1, why did GM not own any shares in TWG Motorsports? Non-rhetorical question. What are we doing here? You can't say that Cadillac F1 are coming into F1 and it really substantively it's TWG Motorsports. What are we doing? How deep does the rabbit hole go? It's just chaos. It's nonsense here. Cadillac F1. Now I'm going to call them TWG Motorsports from now until further notice. Go on, let's talk about Australia very quickly. It's race week, finally, and it's going to get chaotic. Lando Norris is a hot favourite to win the first race of the year. I wonder now whether those odds will adjust going forward with the knowledge that it will be rainy. Who are the Regenmeisters on the grid? You have Sir Lewis and you have Maximilian Verstappen. Ergo, notwithstanding potential vehicular deficits as far as lap time, if I'm backing a driver into Australia and it's going to be rainy, particularly in the race, and if in qualifying, then those drivers have a name. Their names are Maximilian Verstappen and Sir Lewis Hamilton. That being said, 4 a.m. GMT, it's going to be chaotic, right? British Standard Time. But listen, if there's a car out on track, we'll be streaming it over here. I have a feeling you will get a wet season, a max season. Then can you imagine Starlay 2024 Brazil all over again? Safat says really great. Starlay says how can they fit all these teams in on Monaco? So it will be that I'm going to have a chat with Mr. Peter D. Wins, a friend of the channel, in a minute, and that will be his principal point of contention. There is space, but it will be very, very confined, suffocating even. Oh, the humanity. I'm here for it. There's a gazillion other bits of news. Lewis Hamilton's come out and spoken about how he can't wait to win himself an 8th. Not even an 8th, but his first for Ferrari, that he's done everything in his power, that he's gone away and he's trained and that he's ready to go. Now, we'll talk about those bits and bobs later. It's going to get techier than techie things, chat, and I'm here for it. I can't wait. Thank God it's race week. Thank God we only have 7 more sleeps till we get ourselves an Australian Grand Prix. No longer is it just news. Now, the wheels will